Hi, I'm sitting in Ohio and I'm sitting with my father. He's going to be 85 years old on Friday of this week, as I remember.
Correct.
Yep. And I came up here and asked him a key question. I said, Dad, when did I start writing? I obviously knew I was writing by the time I was a teenager, but why did I start writing? Why did I want to pick up the pen and paper? Why was I doing that at whatever age I was doing it? And what did you say? When did I start writing and why?
Around 8 years old, you were interested in, oh man, I'm trying to think of that.
Guy on TV?
Correct, yeah.
That was Rod Serling.
Yeah, and then Will Rogers, you were interested in always wanting to read Will Rogers stuff, and you wanted to write about Will Rogers. Like that, you'd copy down his sayings. Like you'd sit down and you'd copy them down. Because you loved writing, eh? And because every penny you ever got, like you used to put in a pencil, paper. You'd buy pencil, paper, so you could write.
Mm-hmm. And we know that Mom read stories from the Bible to me, as I remember, back at 707 High Street, down at the old place. And I think I was captivated by stories, but I don't remember if I tried to write more stories or what I was up to at that point. I got no memory of it.
I do remember you were going into the room, like in your bedroom, and you would sit down and you'd start writing. A lot of things, we never saw what you wrote, but you would write. You held on to it, then you'd destroy it after a while.
Which is curious. Why would I destroy it?
Well, you'd be writing something else.
Mm-hmm.
Because
nobody taught me filing systems, I guess, at that point.
No. I know I didn't. But you always was interested in what somebody wrote, and you wanted to read about it, and you was always wanting to write something about what they wrote. Okay? And but you was interested in just the writing. Okay?
Well, I know that when I started buying books, when I left college in 1976, there's about 100 boxes that were brought here and put down in the basement. There's still about 30 boxes or 40 boxes there. I've given them all to my nephew, Nicholas, but he's only gone through and picked out the boxing books and the martial arts books. He left the other ones. I just went down there and picked up some books that influenced me when I was a kid. And I probably read this in 1972-ish, The Wisdom of Your Subconscious Mind by John Williams. There is another book that's very popular, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. But this was a different book, and I remember it influencing me. So I was reading this when I was a teenager, and I know I put myself through this very intense writing program, and this book, A Treasury of Tips for Writers, came out in 1964. And I would have read it after that, of course, but who knows if it was 65, 66, 67, but that would make me an early teenager since I was born in 53. But I remember this book deeply influencing me, and a lot of books that came from Writer's Digest and the Writer magazine that were published all influenced me, and this was one of them. And I was very sober and intense about this. I studied these books. I'd walk to the library downtown and go through the books there. Now, to my amazement, I have a copy of Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill, and I probably read this in 73, 74. This is an early paperback. And I think this is curious because it shows that books alone aren't enough. I read Think and Grow Rich when I was an older teenager. This says 1976 in it. It says 1976 right there. It's about when I read it, and I was broke for a decade after it. So the book alone didn't make me rich. Think and Grow Rich alone by itself didn't do it. There's still work to do internally. There's still a lot of things to do action-wise to make a difference. And then these other ones are just curious books. I was a fan of Groucho Marx. You remember Groucho Marx?
Oh, absolutely. I know you were a fan of
it. Well, he wrote a book that in his elder years, he's like 80 here. This one was called Beds. This one was called Memoirs of a Mangy Lover. Is that what it says? Yep. You can't see it. But the one that's really curious, and this looks like it's really rare, Many Happy Returns, Groucho Marx talking about filling out your income tax. And I'm sure it wasn't serious advice. I'm sure it's advice you wouldn't want to take. And I'm going to look, and this book came out in 1942. It says it down there, 1942. And this looks like a hardcover first edition, so I think it's probably worth something to Groucho Marx fans. That's just a sampling of the books that are still down there. There's a lot of fiction books down there, writing books down there, plays, theatrical plays, nonfiction books. I can't even remember all of them, and I just kind of poked around.
Joe, I do know one thing. You bought a lot of books on how to write.
That's right.
You would buying books left and right. And when you got done with Kent up at Kent State, and you brought all the books home, there was a mess of writing books down that cellar, and there's still a mess of them. I don't know what happened to you. I know you took a lot of them, and I sent you a lot of them.
That's right. You did send a bunch of them. Yeah.
And but as far as you were so interested in writing, when you were young, you used to go buy a writing book because you wanted to learn how to write. Okay? And not only when you were 8, I'd say when you were about 12 years old, and you were working with me on side jobs, you'd get your money, you'd go look for a writing book. And you did. Not only did you go to the library and read them, but you bought the books. You sent for them. Okay? And but this is why I know you was always interested in writing, and you stuck with it. And I got to tell you, while we're putting it on tape, Mr. Smith, where you live down in Houston, down in the southern part of Houston, Mr. Smith said, he sticks to that writing, and he's going to make it one of these days. He said he don't give up. You remember that?
I don't remember him saying that, but I'm not surprised.
He said it to me.
Yeah.
He said it to me when I was asking him about his garden.
Well, I would say they paid off. I've now written about 50 books of my own. So we can fill one of those boxes downstairs with just my own books. And that's all a result of reading all of these different things, applying them, and having treasures like this, A Treasury of Tips for Writers. I still remember that book. One of the favorites.